Hey guys, this is Dr. Daniel Leonard again with Central Ohio Spine and Joint. I've got one of my good friends and colleagues, Chelsi, with us today. Chelsi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Dr. Chelsi Day. I am a licensed clinical and sports psychologist. So I focus on the psychological components of sport and athletics.
Awesome, great. Okay, so we had Chelsi do a quick video for us on some of the aspects of the psychology behind injuries and pain. Today, what I want to talk about is actually a little bit more on the performance side of things. So, with a lot of the athletes we're working with, whether it's in the rehabilitation process or on the performance side, is we're always looking to gain an edge. In the mental side of sports is again something that I feel is undervalued. So, what I wanted from you today is, can you just talk quickly about some of the things that you work with your athletes on, as far as the mental side of it, and give our group a couple tips or drills that they can do to improve their mental fitness.
Sure. So I think with most athletes, how I tend to start, and the good way to get yourself thinking about the psychological aspect of performance is thinking about what percentage of your sport is mental. Most people will give a pretty surprisingly big number, and then when I ask them how much of their practice and preparation is mental, usually we're in the ballpark of zero. So it's so important to practice the mental aspect of sport just as much as we practice the physical components. So what we see normally is when we mess up and it's a mental error, so something like shooting free throws, we know is very mental. And a lot of times the errors are mental because the physical repetition has been pretty substantive. And so what we do is we do more repetitions of physical components when we have mental errors. So what I encourage people to do is to start thinking about what exactly are the mental components of your sport. Is it related to concentration? Is it related to attention? Is it related to working with an opponent in some way? And to make note of those and to start practicing them mentally. So one thing I very strongly believe in is mental rehearsal. You can call it imagery, you can call it visualization. Mental rehearsal speaks to the idea that we're using these strategies for the actual skill rehearsal. So if it's a particular skill that you want to focus on, finding a way to create a script and go through it in your mind, just like you would in real time out when you're performing. So making the setting realistic, making it move in real time, deciding whether you're going to be doing your mental rehearsal from inside or outside of your body. You have to work up to it. I was terrible at it for the first few years that I was practicing mental rehearsal. It takes a lot of practice and persistence. It's not something that we tend to do naturally, so we have to practice. So something I always pair with the idea of the mental rehearsal is being able to cut yourself some slack. So knowing that you're going to get distracted, you're going to screw up. The first time I used it, I was a gymnast, and I would see myself flipping around the bar 100 times, and so having to practice to slow myself down. So it's giving yourself time to allow yourself to build a good mental rehearsal playbook so that you can think of what those things are and do them adequately. Mental rehearsal is the only time you'll ever do something 100% perfect. So why not give ourselves the opportunity to build our confidence by doing something perfectly? Pre-performance routines are something that I also think are really important and pair well with mental rehearsal. So whatever your routine is going to be before an event, a performance, also use that pre-performance routine in your training and in your mental rehearsal. So whatever it's going to be, whatever your routine is going to be set, doing it each time you practice, whether mentally or physically, to help your body and your mind get into the zone and know that this is what happens when I do this skill, and this is what happens when I do this skill, and things become a little bit more natural. And the third thing that I talk with people a lot about is basic relaxation. So mental imagery is often very effective at helping us relax, but also things like slowing our breathing down and focusing on our breaths, as simple as counting breaths, as complex as specialized relaxation breathing, but focusing on our breathing to help relax our body, relax our mind, relax our muscles, can be really useful in terms of elevating your mental game when you're trying to improve your performance.
Awesome, great. So one quick question on kind of the visualization. From back in the days when I used to play sports, one of the things that I struggled with is part of the visualization was getting to the point to where I was visualizing what I wanted to. Is,
Mhm.
you know, you want to visualize the perfect swing or the perfect shot, but your body inherently wants to play tricks on you, and you'll visualize one time of missing the shot. So how do you get over that? Is that just the product of repetition? Is that what, in your opinion, what is that?
I think repetition absolutely plays a really big role. But there are some ways we can aid that. So something as simple as sitting down with a piece of paper and breaking down one very small skill and drawing stick figures of the progression. I had a dive coach that used to make me write, get a piece of paper, watch the TiVo, and write down what I was doing in stick figures and what I wanted to do, which then allowed me to look at those stick figures, even just to help imprint in my mind what was going to be a perfect performance so that I could continue to practice it. And it's just like regular performance in the moment. If you screw up in your imagery, oh well, you move on and you redo it. You have an opportunity to kind of reimagine it in a more perfect way. Just like you would say in regular physical practice, you never end on a bad imagery. So make yourself do it a couple of more times until you have more repetitions that were ideal than one.
Awesome, great. Okay, thanks, Chelsea. We really appreciate you being with us today and giving us some of your advice. If any of you have any questions out there, you can either contact myself and I can either forward them on to Chelsea. But we're here as a resource. If you guys have any questions, just let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Chelsea. Yep.